Hi everyone, I hope you are having a great day. I am so excited to be doing the second episode of the Mondays with Margaret series. Today we will be focusing on her book and her poem, Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein. If you are watching my channel for the first time, thanks for checking it out. My name is Jolene from Bookworm Adventure Girl. I love to read diverse authors, diverse books, and diverse genres, and I also read a lot of Canadian literature. If this is something that interests you, then please hit subscribe and stick around. For those who have watched my videos before, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about Margaret Atwood's poem, Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein. Now, I realize that usually I talk about several books in a video, so you might be wondering, why would I take up an entire episode just for one poem? Well, the answer is that it actually has less to do with the poem and more to do with how this particular book was originally published and who published it. I think it will give us a good insight into Margaret Atwood's earlier days as a poet. And if you weren't able to get the digital copy of this book, not to worry. I will leave a couple of the videos in the description below so you can see some of the stories that are part of the book. So we are moving from 1964 with The Circle Game to 1966 with Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein. Now, sad to say that my initial reaction to seeing this cover was that I was not very impressed. I remember thinking, did a child draw this on construction paper? What is this all about? However, once I started digging a little bit deeper and I realized that I was wrong, and this book is in fact an interesting part of Canada's literary history. So I mentioned in the introduction video to this series that Margaret Atwood had published her first book, Persephone or Persephone. She did the typeset and illustrated it herself. Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein is illustrated by Margaret's longtime friend and artist, Charles Patchter. The only way to get a copy of this book is to get the digital copy through House of Anansi. That is, of course, unless you have over $6,000 to spend, then you could probably get one of the 15 copies that were made. The digital copy includes embedded videos and audio, so I think we're going to start the way the book starts. I will go through the poem, talk about it, and then talk about the publishing aspect of it. And I also need to say that when I first read this poem, I hadn't yet read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So the poem actually made no sense to me. I then read Frankenstein in October. I did a video on reading Frankenstein for the first time, and I will leave a link to that in the description as well. So after I read Frankenstein, the poem made a lot more sense. So I'm going to read the poem to you. It's written in 10 verses. Or you might see it as 10 short poems in one. I'm going to read the poem from next Monday's book as it was published in Animals in That Country in 1968, which is also a better option than paying thousands of dollars for the book. So I'm going to read this to you now. Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein. I, the performer, in the tense arena, glittered under the fluorescent moon, was bent masked by the table, saw what focused my intent, the emptiness, the air filled with an ether of cheers. My wrist extended a scalpel. The table is a flat void, barren as total freedom. Though behold a sharp twist like taking a jar top off, and it is a living skeleton, mine, round, that lies on the plate before me, red as a pomegranate, every cell a hot light. I circle, confront my opponent. The thing refuses to be shaped. It moves like yeast. I thrust, the thing fights back. It dissolves, growls, grows crude claws. The air is dusty with blood. It springs. I cut with delicate precision. The specimens ranged on the shelves applaud. The thing falls thud. A cat anatomized. O secret form of the heart, now I have you. Now I shall ornament you. What would you like? Baroque scrolls on your ankles, a silver navel. I am the universal weaver. I have 8 fingers. I complicate you. I surround you with intricate ropes. What web shall I wrap you in? Gradually I pin you down. What equation shall I carve and seal in your skull? What size will I make you? Where should I put your eyes? I was insane with skill. I made you perfect. I should have chosen instead to curl you small as a seed. Trust beginnings. Now I wince before this plateful of results. Core and rind, the flesh between already turning rotten. I stand in the presence of the destroyed God, a rubble of tendons, knuckles, and raw sinews. Knowing that the work is mine, how can I love you? These archives of potential time exude fear like a smell. You arise, larval and shrouded in the flesh I gave you. I, who have no covering left but a white cloth skin, escape from you. You are red, you are human and distorted. You have been starved, you are hungry. I have nothing to feed you. I pull around me, running, a cape of rain. What was my ravenous motive? Why did I make you? Reflection, you have stolen everything you needed. My joy, my ability to suffer. You have transmuted yourself to me. I am a vestige. I am numb. Now you accuse me of murder. Can't you see I am incapable? Blood of my brain, it is you who have killed these people. Since I dared to attempt impious wonders, I must pursue that animal I once denied was mine. Over this vacant winter plain, the sky is a black shell. I move within it, a cold kernel of pain. I scratch huge rescue messages on the solid snow, in vain. My heart's husk is a stomach. I am its food. The sparkling monster gambols there ahead, his mane electric. This is his true place. He dances in spirals on the ice, his clawed feet kindling shaggy fires. His happiness is now the chase itself. He traces it in light. His paths contain it. I am the gaunt hunter, necessary for his patterns, lurking, gnawing leather. The creature, his arctic hackles bristling, spreads over the dark ceiling, his paws on the horizons, rolling the world like a snowball. He glows and says, "Doctor, my shadow shivering on the table, you dangle on the leash of your own longing, your need grows teeth. You sliced me loose and said it was creation. I could feel the knife. Now you would like to heal that chasm in your side, but I recede, I prowl. I will not come when you call." So a few brief thoughts that I had about the poem were that in verse 1, it sets the stage for Frankenstein's work. He calls himself a performer. And when he said this, I kind of imagined a performer with a spotlight, like ready to do their dance or their monologue. And in this case, Frankenstein is creating, and his tool is his scalpel. In verse 2, he describes a canvas. And with Frankenstein, he can create anything he wants, and he's starting from scratch. And I took the line, "It is a living skeleton, mind, round," to mean that he sees something of himself in this creation. The creation is actually like him. In verse 3, it's almost like whatever Frankenstein is creating, there is already a rivalry, and Frankenstein is trying to subdue it. He seems pleased by what he has done with the words, "O secret form of the heart, now I have you." It's like he believes that his ambition to find out about life and death and maybe the secrets of the heart are finally captured. And then in verse 4, he describes how Frankenstein is going to ornament his creation. So in the book, Frankenstein uses body parts and chemicals, and the same in the poem. It's almost like he's in a scrapyard piecing something together. And he also talks about being the universal weaver and still trying to subdue or maybe trap his creation in some way. He talks about surrounding it with intricate ropes and pinning the creation down. In verse 5, this is where, in my opinion, it takes a turn. Frankenstein begins to realize that what he believed he had made to be perfect is in fact not perfect, and there's a repulsion in him of what he created, and he cannot love it. So now Frankenstein is fearful of what he has done. And in verse 7, he actually runs from creation. He questions his reasoning and the desire to make his creation in the first place. Actually, I think that was verse 6. My apologies. Yeah, so in verse 7, he then blames the creation for taking everything from him and basically says, don't blame me for the people who have died. Instead he blames the creation for the killings and everything that's happened, and not seeing the part that he also played. In verse 8, nothing is said about revenge here, but this is when Frankenstein begins to go after the creation in cruel weather. In the book, he follows him north, and then in verse 9, this is the first time in the poem that Frankenstein's creation is called a monster, and it seems here that Frankenstein thinks the monster is enjoying being chased by him and that it's now all a game to him. And then in verse 10, it gives the creature voice, and the creature seems to say that, the Dr. Frankenstein has created something greater than him, and it is now the creature that has the power. So those were just some of my thoughts, but I'd be interested in hearing what you think of this poem as well. So now we're going to turn to the friendship between Margaret Atwood and Charles Patchter. Charles Patchter met Margaret Atwood at a summer camp when Margaret was about 20 years old. And Charles said that Margaret was always incredibly supportive of his art and incredibly generous with her time. And the letters that she wrote Charles are now in the U of T library. And Charles Patchter took on the responsibility to illustrate this poem. Charles was learning to set type, and he practiced on Margaret Atwood's The Circle Game. He's done 5 Atwood books, and his thesis was on the challenges of illustrating poetry. So the challenge was to take the words and translate that into a powerful image. Charles says that the poem is a dialogue between the writer and his or her alter ego. So the monster in this poem represents your own personal demons, and the reader takes on the person of Frankenstein. So obviously this was published before computers, and everything had to be hand set. As I said, there's only 15 copies of Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein, and the process is incredible. The paper itself is handmade with linen and cotton, and some of Margaret Atwood's old clothes and blouses that she sent Charles. He used different techniques for the illustrations. He used lino-cut, woodblock, and silkscreen. And the book was made from large sheets of paper that were then folded into 4 to make 4 pages. And if there was a mistake on one of those sheets, then all 4 had to be redone. So it'd be very time-consuming. And Charles and Margaret have remained friends, supporting one another in their artistry, and we will see more of Charles' work again in our reading of a book in a few weeks, I think it is. So in the description below, I will share one of the videos that is available on YouTube. It's probably about 3 to 4 minutes, and it's Charles Patchter talking about how he and Margaret became friends. If you are following along with the series, the schedule is also in the description. It will let you know what we will be reading until the end of February. Thank you to everyone who commented and shared your thoughts of the last poems in last week's video. I really enjoyed reading them and learning what you thought and learning from you. So I'm looking forward to more Mondays with Margaret and reading more with you. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of Speeches for Dr. Frankenstein, either the poem or the publishing of the book. I look forward to hearing what you think and chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.